This is ContactTalkRadio.com. Consciousness in action. And you are taking action into your consciousness by tuning into Contact Talk Radio.
And on TuneIn.com, Hing.fm, and UpSnap Mobile.
Contact Talk Radio. Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. Joan and Janet are subtle energy empaths who navigate consciousness. Their passion is to support you in your evolution. As consciousness, we are all one mind, one heart, free of all limitations. Experience this reality with us and discover how it can make a difference in your daily living. Join us in a state of grace as we explore, with warmth and humor, this thing we call life. Now, here are Joan Newcomb and Janet Barrett.
Welcome to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. We're your co-hosts. I'm Joan Newcomb, coming to you from Tacoma, Washington, and my partner Janet Barrett's coming to you from Portland, Oregon.
Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We've got a great show today. Well, they're always great, but we have a guest today, and that'll add.
Yes, we're very excited about this. Our guest today is Robbie Holz, and she's an intuitive guided practitioner of self-healing. She's a consultant and award-winning author of 2 books, Secrets of Aboriginal Healing and Aboriginal Secrets of Awakening. Following the ancient Aboriginal principles, Robbie Holz healed herself of hepatitis C and fibromyalgia. And her husband, once a quadriplegic, the late Dr. Gary Holz, he regained feeling and increased movement throughout his paralyzed body. She offers one-on-one sessions, online self-healing course, and her speaking services, and her website is holtzwellness.com. We're going to be diving deep into this very shortly. They have a few things just to let you know first. So, Janet, take it away.
Oh gosh, let me see. We want to let everybody know, if you're interested in calling in, please do that in the next few minutes at 1-844-390-8255. That number again is 1-844-390-8255, and be part of the conversation here. Wonderful things. Oh, this is a great day. Very good, very good. And we want to invite people to how to join us off the show when you're not listening. Yeah, what do we got there?
Or how I would say it's an invitation to go deeper with us, to connect with us beyond the show. And you can find everything at our website, which is consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com. There you can access our podcast. So if you've missed any of our previous shows, you can go listen to them there. You can also access our individual websites, Janet's website and my website. You can read our blogs. Janet puts out Words of Wisdom on Mondays, and I put out Words of something on Fridays. And you can also find our meetups. Janet does meetups in Portland on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I do meetups around the Puget Sound, conscious conversations we have around the Puget Sound, Seattle, Bellevue, Tacoma, University Place in Washington. And we are getting messages from the gods right now. We are. That's because I don't know how to mute this. Anyhow, you can also find out about our sessions that we both offer. And we're on Facebook, so if that's your preferred method of connecting with us, we are on Facebook. You can find our group, Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, and join the group and join the fun. You can find Janet's page. She's Janet Barrett on Facebook. Anybody who's tweeting messages, just hold off for a few minutes. Thank you. And you can, talking about tweeting, we're on Twitter. The show is on Twitter at Joan and Janet, and I'm on Twitter at Joan Newcomb if you like pictures of puppies and outrageous political opinions. You can subscribe to us on YouTube. The show is on YouTube, and that some people just binge listen to us as they're falling to sleep on going to sleep in heart space on YouTube. And then I am also on YouTube, Joan M. Newcomb on YouTube with my Words of Wisdom every Tuesday. What else are we doing, Janet?
Do we have any meetups going on at all? Or are you done for the season?
I'm not done for the season. I do have a meetup coming up, but we have something really important tomorrow. Oh, that's right. So I'll just go take it. I don't mind talking. I'll just keep talking right ahead. So So listen, we have a conscious conference call tomorrow, Thursday, December 15th. It's at 7 p.m. Pacific, and that is 10 p.m. Eastern. And you can connect with us up close and personal. So if you really enjoy this show, but let's say you only catch it on a podcast or you're at work listening to it and you can't call in, this is a way to get up close and personal with us. It's a small group. We go into heart space and we discuss these issues, but it's an opportunity for you just to get in on the conversation and both talk as well as listen. And some people really like it because the show, goes out. We've got, last count, we had like 35,000 followers. We're in 190 different countries, and we're in 190 different countries. And so this is a way to be in a closer vibrational field with us, and really people are finding it very, very impactful. And as far as the most upcoming meetups, I have a very special meetup in Seattle this weekend on Sunday. It's at Uptown Espresso in South Lake Union. It's from 2 to 4, and it's on rediscovering your purpose and regaining your passion for life. So if your soul is longing to do something more meaningful, if you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job and go be a Reiki master, for instance, if you want to fulfill your calling but you don't know what it is, if you know what you want to do but you don't know how to do it, if you're just dissatisfied with your current path, or maybe you're waiting till you're retired to do what you want to do, or you have a dream but you feel too scared to do it, come to my meetup. It's a talk about rediscovering your purpose and passion. I will tell you who you are, why you're here. It'll totally explain why you're feeling called and what's going on in the world today. And I will give you some strong techniques that you can use to help navigate your life. So that's on Sunday, and you can find out more about it at our website, consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com, and you can sign up there.
That sounds like it all.
Yes.
You got lots of stuff there. We're all busy. We want you to know, listeners, that we are here, and we're here to share with you, to help you, to hold space, that whatever seems to be going on in the world is just something that seems to be going on in the world, and that doesn't have to mean anything. What you want to do is learn how to go back within yourself, access that state, and realize you are just fine. So that's what we do. So give us a call, set up sessions, join us on the free conference call, which is just so powerful. Listen to the website. Catch us however you can. We're here. We're here to help.
All right. Well, I think it's time to
introduce Robbie. Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
Yay.
Hello, Robbie.
Hi.
Welcome.
I'm so to be here.
Oh, we're so
Welcome.
happy to have you. I've been looking forward to this because our show is always about building a reference in the world for people, our listeners. There's some place that they can anchor into. And we always are looking for our guests who are going to add to that radio show field of reference. And we've been very fortunate in who we have on, and you're part of that flow for us because you represent and articulate and are part of that field of the old knowledge that sometimes we lose track of, and in your references with the Aborigines and the power that's there. So thank you very much for joining us today.
Oh, I'm really pumped and excited. I love that you beautiful women are holding the space for this this consciousness, and people need to come together like-minded and get empowered, because sometimes they feel very isolated, and it's great to know that people like you are out there doing the work that you're doing. So thank you.
Well, and the work you're doing. So let's see. Do you, since we do this from a place of consciousness, and we're always conscious, whether we're conscious or not of it, but which is always the fun part of it. Is there something you want to share in this moment to give people an idea, a taste of what you look to embody, and then we'll go to our break?
Sure. I think what I'm here to share is how to self-heal. That power has kind of been taken away from us, and I came to this place because I healed myself of what the doctor said was incurable: hepatitis C and fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome and brain damage. And Gary, who was a quadriplegic who was dying from MS, used this beautiful ancient wisdom from the Aborigines, and this has sort of put me on this path of passionately teaching people how to activate their own self-healing. Every one of us has that gift and that ability within us. So, yeah, let's get that out there and spread it around.
Ooh.
That's great. That's great.
So that really has a place for us, very much so.
So I'm really excited about this too, and Janet's going to take us into heart space right after we stop for commercial break. So you're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, and stay tuned because we're talking with Robbie Holz about Aboriginal healing and the awakening in a state of grace right after these messages.
Would you like a fresh approach to the challenges you are dealing with? Take a journey into your enlightenment with Janet Barrett. Janet is a subtle energies empath, accessing the field of potential with warmth, humor, and support. She will help you to hear what your inner voice is saying. She will share with you how to appreciate who you are now and offer you new ways to understand and transform your issues. Reach her at www.janetandbeyond.com. That's janetandbeyond.com. Again, janetandbeyond.com. Transformation is possible. You can enjoy new outcomes in your current experiences. They can happen in the blink of an eye. Is your soul calling you to do something more meaningful with your life? Do you feel crazy for wanting to quit your secure job? Perhaps you are waiting until you retire to do what you love. Maybe you are too daunted to follow your dream. If any of these match your life, then Joan Newcomb's Purpose and Passion Coaching Program is just for you. In just 12 weeks, you will discover who you essentially are and why you are here. Learn to live as your greater self and navigate with conscious mastery. Go to joan-newcomb.com. That's joan-newcomb.com for all of her coaching programs.
You are listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. To reach our program, please send questions and comments to consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. That's consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Now, back to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet.
Welcome back. You're listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan, along here with Janet, and we are talking with Robbie Holz, Aboriginal Healing and Awakening.
Ooh, good stuff. Well, we're all primed for it, audience, so we think we're just going to we're already in it.
We're going to jump into heart space.
Yes, we're going to go for heart space here. Field of unified consciousness. We'll find out from Robbie what her verbiage is about it. And let's see what shows up, because so much is possible and highly probable here. So everybody, just wherever you are, whatever you're doing, that part of you that can join us and is paying attention, just allow yourself to open. And we're going to use that word today, an opening. And just bring your awareness to the first meaning of heart, which would be that physical organ. And look at your hand, either hand, and close it. And in that fist is the size of your heart, pretty much. And so I want you to acknowledge that physical heart. It is the core essence that says I am alive. So we put appreciation and gratitude there. And it's just a place of focus. There we go. Oh, there's a lot of energy up and running. So just notice that. There we go. It feels like we've all been racing, and so this is our time to just slow that down and breathe. Oh, that's nice. That's nice, everyone. And then the second meaning of heart, the emotional terrain. And from a more neutral position, just notice what emotions might be up and running and however you're going to notice them. Maybe a feeling, maybe as an object or a symbol, maybe a color, maybe the bird flying past the window, whatever it might be. Acknowledge your emotions. Don't judge them, and only use a label just as a way to go, oh, that's what that is. And you probably have more than one running. And notice whatever it is that you're noticing. There's probably things that you aren't noticing. And so be okay with that. And there's still a lot of energy there. So just be okay. It's okay because we say it's okay. That's the reality that we're in. And then go for the third meaning of heart, the core essence of all, where we are all one. We lose our distinctions, and we are just in the infinite sea of potential, where nothing is nothing yet, and where you're just a cloud of light, photons, with a little bit of biomass, biophotons, and resonances and frequencies and vibrations and information. And information that unites with those frequencies, vibrations, and those biophotons and photons and becomes your stories and your myths and your heritage and your future. And everything is in information. And just notice that everything starts to soften a little bit. Everything's a little less solid. There we go. Infinite sea of potential. And this is where there is no time, there is no space, and that what each of us bring to this moment is across time and space. That old wisdom is new wisdom, it's current wisdom. There's no distinctions anymore in this place. And that whatever it is that seems so intense is really just a little less. And this is the place where you put potential into it, and it can become something quite awesome, wonderful, unusual, not at all what you thought it was, not at all what you thought was possible. That in this place, whatever seems so hard and known and rigid and certain is no longer hard, known, certain, or rigid. Boy, we still got a lot of energy pumping, that's for sure. What you noticing, Joan?
I was back on things that were hard and rigid, and then you started talking about energy. I'm curious about how Robbie is experiencing this. How are you enjoying? Is this familiar to you, to Robbie?
Well, I think this is powerful. I think this is really very. We get, like you said in the beginning, we get so busy, we get so caught up in our day, we forget what's really going on inside, which is really what's most important. And the more conscious you are of what's going on inside is going to determine, your degree of presence in the now. And that's really the key, I think, to everything, being totally present in the now. So that's a great exercise, Janet. Well done.
Oh, thank you. So what do we want to talk about? We have this time together. What comes to mind?
Well, I think that people probably don't know much about the remote Australian Aboriginals that are in the outback. They have safeguarded themselves from society, and they're the oldest continuous culture on the planet. We know they're at least 60,000 years old, but I believe they're much, much older than that.
Wow.
And they are, they've always passed their wisdom down from one person to the next. But what I think, why we want to pay attention to what the remote Aboriginals have to say is that they are awake. They've never lost that connection to Mother Earth. They've always maintained that understanding of consciousness, and that we are all one unified field, and we are tapping into that. And they've always remained, not all of them, but the ones that I'm talking about, they've always stayed telepathic. We used to have that ability, and when we started speaking out loud, we lost our connection. They think that speaking out loud is very primitive, very chaotic, and we couldn't hear the trees talking to us. We couldn't hear the plants speaking to us about what they could heal. We couldn't hear where the water was, and they've always connected and had that. And so their healing, the reason they gave us these ancient healing secrets, my husband was a physicist, Dr. Gary Holtz, and he went into the outback looking for answers because he really had about 6 months left to live, and he went into the outback trying to find ways to survive. He was a quadriplegic in a wheelchair from MS. And they gave their healing secrets to him, which was really unusual for them to give the white man their ancient wisdom, but they did so because they said we really didn't understand how healing worked. We were really missing the mark. And so understanding more their healing wisdom, I get it. I see the pieces that are so important that especially mainstream Western medicine is really missing the boat on. And this is why they gave us this, because they feel sorry for us. They feel like we're very chaotic. We don't really use our subconscious to any degree. We're controlled by our minds rather than being more conscious about what's going on. So, that wisdom that they gave my husband enabled him to dramatically change. And having healed myself of a number of things that the doctor said were incurable at the time, like I said before, it put me on this path of getting this wisdom out there. And we ended up writing this beautiful book, Secrets of Aboriginal Healing, which has won a number of awards. It's only like 116 pages. It's fascinating. People think because it was written by this physicist and his experience in the outback that it's really going to be thick and dull, and it's not. It's fascinating. And it's now in over 40 countries and translated in other languages because this ancient wisdom is truth, and people can feel it, and it resonates with them, and it's simple, and it's accessible to anybody, and so that's why I'm so passionate about it.
Well, it doesn't get much better than that, does it?
Yeah. Well, when people hear truth, they know it. It resonates with you, and you feel it, and I think that's why this book is done. I was starting to keep track of, I was getting emails from people with initials. I didn't even know what that was, and it's like, wow, this book is in Croatia. It's translated in Slovenian. It's in Spain and New Zealand. It's China. It's amazing. When people feel it, they know it. Well, like you, because you ladies know, we're all part of this unified field. We're all part of the collective. So, yeah.
And we're part of the collective, and there is a collective consciousness shift going on. So more and more people are becoming curious, interested, tuned in, and able to be receptive to this information. So it feels really spot on for what's going on in the world today.
Right, because a lot of things don't quite feel right. Your intuition is always your compass, your guiding force, and people will go to the doctor, and I'm not saying this is the case all the time. If you have, surgery that you need to have, then by all means have it if you've reached that point, or if you have to have pharmaceuticals, by all means take advantage of that if that's what you need to do because you've reached that point. But what I think a lot of people realize is that some of these ways that we treat things are just really primitive, and it just doesn't feel right. And they know that they just have that sense that their body knows how to heal. They just don't know what's blocking that healing, and that's what the Aborigines have taught us, is very importantly how we're creating these illnesses. Emotions play a huge role in it, and people aren't even really thinking about it. They pay attention to what they eat. They pay attention to, the water they drink and getting exercise, but are they paying attention to the thoughts that they're feeding themselves on a regular basis? Because it creates a different type of cell. and it creates a different type of chemical response. And for most people, it's the emotions that have created the illness to begin with, and that's the part that needs to be discovered and released. Otherwise, like the Aborigines said, it's like a picking the top of a dandelion is going to come right back again, just like people who've had tumors removed or cancer removed, and it comes back because they still have the same emotional components that created it in the first place. It's kind of like if you have a lot of guilt is one of the hardest emotions on the body, and what's happening is the body just starts to crumble from these emotions, the fear, the negativity. Autoimmune diseases, that means there's a lot of fear throughout your whole system. But if you have, for instance, a lot of grief, we hold that emotion in our chest. And if you have a lot of grief and you keep having that grief and you're not releasing it, and you have a family history of heart disease or breast cancer, you need to be paying attention to that because you could be setting yourself up for potential physical problems. So it starts out with emotions that aren't healthy, that are harming the body, creating cells that aren't very vibrant. And that's kind of like a dashboard on a car starting to blink, warning you of a potential problem. And if you keep doing it and you're not releasing it and you keep having that grief, for instance, now that dashboard is lit up all the time, and it's called breast cancer. So that's where you have got to go back and find out what were the emotions that started it in the first place. Because I don't think people realize that, I mean, I just love this wisdom from the Aborigines. They really understand the process of healing. It takes three things to heal. If you have an alignment of your body, your emotions, and the soul, anything can be healed. Anything. It doesn't matter what it is. If your soul's aligned with healing, your body's aligned with healing, and your emotions are aligned with healing, you can and will heal it. But most people, the emotions are off. And whether it's conscious or it's unconscious, the emotions are not on board with healing. That's for most people. So that's where you want to pay attention to what are the emotions that are not on board with healing, and what are the emotions that actually have created it. And we talk a lot about that in my second book, The Aboriginal Secrets of Awakening, the many different types of healing. I think the second book, the Awakening book, is the fascinating one because it talks about when Gary comes back from the outback and discovers that he has a lot of the gifts and abilities that the Aborigines do, where he can see into the body, he can see the chakra spinning, he can see the auras, the energy fields. You know, it's fascinating, and he became telepathic. I did not know that the first year I was married to him, which was a very situation. But
he was
more, so, yeah. What's that?
The telepath doesn't always work both ways. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, you know, it's not always as glamorous as it sounds because there's a reason you sometimes don't want to hear what other people are thinking.
Right.
Yeah, that was not easy. But he came back from the outback and started developing these healing gifts that were really extraordinary. And that's what the second book talks about, the Awakening book, how people would come to us with animals or with young children or all kinds of things, cancer, stage 4 cancers, AIDS, and it was up to whether the soul, first of all, that was the first question we asked, is the soul aligned with healing? Because if it's not, we don't mess with it. We might be able to help them and improve them and help release the pain and help them be more at peace, but it will not completely heal. But that's very rare. And we talk about in that Awakening book stories of babies or children who are deliberately born that way because it's part of their soul's journey and they need to experience it. Like a blind child, a blind person is going to have a very different journey than someone who is sighted, and that's very deliberate. So that's why we wouldn't heal that. We wouldn't attempt to heal that child if it was not the soul's intent. Yeah.
There's so many factors that play in all of this, you know, and levels of awareness and where everything intersects, right? And and that there is in the infinite sea of potential that it can change, right?
Absolutely.
And inviting consciousness through its human interface in what it's looking to experience. And I think nothing is written in stone, right? We sometimes think in that way, but for all those that, and we all do healing work, you know, we've all worked with clients and different things, and in ourselves where we go, okay, this isn't up to me. And we know that from the beginning. It is up to the individual in their experience of what they're choosing to experience as consciousness. And where that intersection of self and consciousness come into connecting within ourselves. And sometimes, and we're all at different places with that awareness. And so how, if you tap in, allowing yourself to be in that reality where that information is present and where choices show up and different things, and you documented several places where they just needed a kickstart or some kind of awareness on their journey, right? But that's what the journey was about, in having those processes and having those experiences. And
Exactly. Yeah. And sometimes you might get like a major car accident, or you may have a cancer diagnosis. It may simply be, quite often, it's a wake-up call, you know.
Right.
Are you going to let go of some of these negative thought patterns or fear patterns that are creating problems with your body? Because your body is reflecting your emotions. It's reflecting your thoughts. And it's an opportunity to become more conscious and change those thought patterns and change those belief systems that are holding you. It really comes down to waking up to the mind controlling you with fear and negativity, and shifting out of that and shifting back to the heart. When you don't feel good emotionally, there's nothing wrong with any emotion. There's nothing wrong with any of it. And don't try to suppress or deny them. It's just that some of them you just don't want to hang out in on a regular basis for a long time.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't feel good emotionally, I guarantee it's having an effect on the body that's not in a good way either. So pay attention to that and be more conscious of that. And shift more into, for instance, I said that what's really hard on the body is guilt and self-hatred. That's really tough on the body. But what's very healing is gratitude. Gratitude has a beautiful chemical response on the body. Love, joy, forgiveness. If you want to heal something, you need to forgive everything and everyone around it to completely heal. So that's the stuff that you want to pay attention to. It's either fear-based and negative, or it's love-based. It's that simple. And the Aborigines have given us the steps on how to heal that, how to move through that process, whether it's physical or it's emotional. And they use those same 5 steps, not just for healing, but they use it for everything. And I love the simplicity to it. It's whether it's about manifesting a career or a partner or a healing. It's the same 5 steps. And they have such beautiful ancient wisdom. They've never lost that connection. And I had the opportunity to be in ceremony. I was invited to participate in ceremonies in the outback with the remote outback Aboriginal women and their children. And when I was in these ceremonies, I can't describe the ceremonies, but I can describe that when I was in them, it raised our frequency so high that you could feel that you were the one. You could feel the oneness. You could feel the connectedness. Not just know it intellectually, but feel it. And you could also feel how passionately Gaia loves us. You could feel that passion, that tremendous love. And this is what the Aboriginals have always felt, the remote ones that I'm talking about. And they are probably your original environmentalists. They've always felt deep connection to Mother Earth. These indigenous cultures, they all tend to have some of the same things in common, such as they all feel deeply connected to the planet, to Mother Earth. And they also feel very connected to their ancestors, because they know that those experiences are in us. Their fears, their experiences are part of us. And I'd love to share a scientific study that proves that. I don't know if we have time or we need to do a break, but...
we have a little bit more time, so do go ahead and share that.
Okay, because I think it'll help people understand, maybe these emotions and feelings come up, but are they mine? Maybe you just, like you talked about before, observe it. I think Janet mentioned it, observe it, but don't necessarily have to identify and go into it. So scientists did these studies where they were experimenting with mice, and mice love cherries and almonds. It's their favorite things to eat. So they were electrically shocking lab mice whenever they were smelling cherries and almonds. Now, of course, the mice became really fearful and freaked out whenever they smelled cherries or almonds. They thought they were going to get shocked again. But what they noticed is that all the generations that kept coming from these particular lab mice had the same fears, even though they had never been through those experiences themselves.
Right.
So this is where you want to pay attention to, where does that fear come from? This fear of lack of money, or I'm not good enough. Is it part of the collective, or is it my great-grandmother's fears and experiences? That's where you want to start observing it rather than just automatically getting pulled into it.
That is great. It shows the generational. In family constellation goes back X number. I think goes back like 10 generations beyond what you would have even heard of stories of your grandparents that we carry it through. I was also thinking about the different levels of emotion, and at the very basic level, emotion is how our bodies communicate to us as consciousness. And at that core level, it is really the same as any infant that cries when it's tired, cries when it's wet, and cries when it's hungry. So most of the time it's the body crying for you to pay attention to it and you to take care of it. But you brought out these other nuances of things that are distorted impulses over time, that, guilt or shame, that there's something inherently wrong with you when all you really need is a nap. All you really need is something to eat.
I know, it's that simple. And here's the other thing. I say that we have these things that our ancestors have gone through and they have not healed them. And you're like, great, thank you for that. And I love that I can go there with this audience. You have come in deliberately to heal that. That's why you've incarnated into this particular family. Right. You came in to heal that. And when you do that, it heals the past generations and it also heals the future generations. So let me just say two things about that. When you come in to deliberately heal lack, for instance, not having enough money, you will be incarnated into a family of younger souls that have a lot of belief systems and, like you said, distortions, misperceptions about there's not enough money. You would be deliberately born into that. Now, you have to remember that who you are. You're an extraordinary, extraordinary divine luminous being, very powerful. Your thoughts profoundly affect creation. And you are evolved enough to handle that, to overcome it, to heal it. If you're an old evolved soul, which I pretty much think just about everybody listening on this program is a very old evolved soul, you're going to be put with younger souls, and you're going to be put in situations that you are able to overcome the mind programming and feeding and conditioning because you're evolved enough. There's no point giving you kindergarten classes when you're teaching physics. So you're going to get more evolved opportunities for growth, opportunities to evolve beyond what the mind is telling you that's not true. So it's about waking up to what the mind is feeding you, recognizing you're here to overcome that. You're here to heal this, to cut those cords, to let go of these fears, these negativities. It's just mind stuff, and shift back to the heart. Shift back to love, acceptance. It's not uncommon to see very evolved old souls who will come in. This is not just a beautiful paradise and a free will planet. It's also like a school. And we make huge leaps in growth, huge leaps because of the tremendous contrast, the dark and the light. And so as an old soul, it's very common for me to see very old souls who choose to learn, to master, to get a PhD in or a doctorate in self-love. So they're going to be born, incarnated into a family and situations in their life where they don't feel that they're good enough or lovable, or they have to overcome that conditioning. And again, they're capable of it, and they have tremendous help from the other side of the veil if they will ask for it. We can go into that. That's pretty cool too. So pay attention. Are you here to learn and master forgiveness, acceptance, self-love, for instance? Those are very common themes for old souls, and that's why things have deliberately been placed in your life to help you master that, the ups and downs, the ins and outs of what forgiveness is all about. And as you forgive and overcome, it adds to the collective, to the tipping point, and it adds to the consciousness of others being awake, others being more forgiving and acceptance and self-love. You're not only bringing self-love into your life and also healing past generations, but you're bringing it to the collective as well.
That's great.
How cool are we, right?
Yes.
How brave are we? How extraordinary are we?
I really appreciate you pointing that out because, yes, listeners, if you are listening to this, then you are in that collective few that are here to break those patterns, to bring the new energy through. So saying just what Robbie said in maybe a slightly different way, if you're in your family and you look around and feel like,
you're the one,
you don't belong because everybody else is fulfilling the family patterns. They're going into the family businesses. They're carrying on the family dysfunction.
Yeah, that is the family business.
The business, right. And you're doing something different. It's because that, yes, you are actually the old soul that is here to break that pattern because it's bringing in a new emergence, a new awareness into the world.
Well, you're not going to feel like you fit in. I can't tell you how many people feel like their eggs has been placed in somebody else's nest. Right. You don't fit in, and the more you go down the spiritual path, the more you awaken, the more you do not fit into this world. But you're here deliberately, bravely to help in these amazing times, to help with the awakening process. And we may not see the fruits of our labors right now, but it is happening. And so we're here to add to that consciousness. And that's why it's almost like we're a couple generations ahead. And so you have to keep that in mind and just accept that everybody's where they are because that's all they're capable of at the moment. And you may be a little further down the process. It doesn't mean you're better than, it just means that you're more awake.
You're the pioneer or the scout into the darkness, really.
Yeah, creating pathways, yes.
Well, Robbie, I'm taken with the Aborigine experience of life and in how their culture, in their isolation, and why isolation can be a good thing and why isolation can be isolating, is that their respect for their traditions, and since their sense of time is different and their ancestors are really present with them, is the feeling that I have, that there's all this information that sometimes we lose in our Western societies and in our sense of culture and what has developed. In the Aborigine terms, and I don't know how much you can speak of this, but what is their sense of time? It seems like timelessness. It seems like what, you know what I mean? I
think you're right. No, you're right. I think that and I'm not saying that all of the Aboriginals or all of the remote ones, but the ones that I'm talking about, the enlightened remote Aboriginals who are living in a much higher dimensional existence than most of us.
Okay, can you address that right there? So where is that sense coming from?
Well, let's just say that we are currently living in a third dimensional existence, okay?
Okay.
And that means that, and a lot of younger souls tend to be materialistic, self-absorbed, greedy. I'm not saying judgmental things. I'm just saying that's where they are in their pattern of growth at this point.
And that feels very shallow surface to me, that energy.
Yeah, and it's just that they're learning.
Yeah.
They're learning how to move into a more being of service of others, not being judgmental. And that's, I feel that some of these remote Aboriginal Australian outback folks are living in a fifth dimensional existence. They're living where we're headed. Okay, they've already been there, and this is why again they're showing us how to do that. They're living in love. They don't even have a word for my. They don't have a possessive pronoun. There is no such thing in their world. They're taught at a very young age that it's all about sharing and oneness. There is no ego. There is no competitive sport. If the hunter comes back with food, he is the last to be served. And then the next time he's the first to be served. Or if you are honored for something, then the next day you do something that may be the lowest task. So that there's no ego, there's no possessiveness. It's all shared. It's all higher levels of service, high levels of love. Gary, when he was in the Outback, and we described this in Secrets of Aboriginal Healing, we described his Outback experience and how he didn't realize they were telepathic until he had an experience with this little girl that we described. But he said that when he felt a need, he said he could see the Aboriginals, people tripping over themselves to fulfill that because that's just the way they are. They're living in this higher level of love, a higher vibration, a higher frequency. And I think that the Aboriginals are I believe that they are Atlanteans who sort of escaped into this area, and they have deliberately safeguarded themselves from society. I mean, the outback is vast. You can fly. I flew in an airplane for a jet for like 5 hours over nothing but desert, and I just didn't. That's not even all of it. That's just part of it. It's vast. So you could be tucked away, safeguarded inside this really harsh condition, which they don't think is harsh at all. They have tremendous love for it, and it just amazes me how they're able to live in this. It's just so hot. It's the insects, the heat, and then at night it's freezing, and it's just. My campmate had a tarantula, or barking spider, I think it's called. We describe it in the Awakening book. Chased her around our campfire. It was as big as a dinner plate, and its body was as big as your fist. It's just, it's a very wild pigs, wild camels, but they live in this harsh environment, and they feel nothing but tremendous gratitude and connection.
Right.
And so I just feel they're already very awake, and they're showing us how to get there. And what they will tell you is the key to getting there is, number one, simplicity, which I believe, Janet, you led us very beautifully in that beginning meditation about getting quiet, slowing down. Let's get back to simplicity. And that's also important, is to get quiet, get more present, listen to that inner voice, feel that connection, and quiet that mind down more often. Those are powerful, simple steps that just take practice, but they'll get you there.
This is wonderful.
I'm still working on it. Yeah.
Well, yes, and I think that's an important thing to note for people as well, is that it doesn't matter how advanced you may be along any spiritual path, that you're in a physical body, so there's always something to work on in terms of embodiment. And I love that you pointed out that they're living a 5D existence in this reality, because people are starting to have this kind of 5D awakening going on and figuring out how do we manifest this in physical form.
And the body is a beautiful, can I interrupt you for a sec?
Sure.
The body is a beautiful partner to help you wake up to your emotions that need to shift. Your body is showing you where you're out of alignment. It's showing you what distortions or misperceptions that you're hanging on to, that your body's feeding, that your mind is feeding you, that aren't serving you, that it's time to go. I work with this beautiful team of spirit guides. It's spearheaded by Mother Mary, and I have Archangel Raphael and Michael and my late husband Gary and others, and sometimes the Aboriginals will come on board depending on who I'm working with. And I remember Mother Mary telling me many, many times, she said, these old thought patterns, she said, they're childish and immature. It's time to stop. Let it go. And that's what we're here to master in this lifetime on this planet, where we are given the gift of a physical form. To be in a physical body as an etheric spirit is such a huge honor and blessing, so big. And I remember asking one of the guides one time, what did they miss about being in a body? And I remember one of them saying, a good sneeze. You know, and
that sounds about right. We're tracking the same ones, okay?
Right.
I think we have to go to commercial break.
No, Janet, no. We've gone way beyond it. So I'm the one who holds the container of time and space, and Cameron and I just decided that this information was too important. So we have actually skipped the commercial break, but I was waiting for a good feeling of completion of thought with what Robbie was talking about, and then I was going to let people know more about you, Robbie, and also how to get in touch with you and what is coming up. So could you finish the thought you were just talking about?
Oh, I was just saying that I think we underestimate what a huge honor and blessing it is to be in a body as an etheric spirit and experience these amazing things on this beautiful planet, and the opportunities for growth are huge. We are so blessed to be able to make huge leaps in growth in one lifetime that are just... we take that for granted, and we may not like it. The mind may not like it, but it's very, very rich for the soul.
Thank you. That's great. And I will just drop a couple of cents in there that you were talking about how some of these changes are generational. We may not see the results. And yet what I have been aware of recently is that things have been accelerating, and the more consciousness comes into physical form, the more unexpected and instantaneous and seemingly random things that show up. So We can see changes within our lifetimes that in the past would have taken much longer. Just holding out hope for that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I want to let folks know, if they've tuned in a little bit late, that we have been talking with Robbie Holz, and she is an intuitively guided practitioner of self-healing. She's a consultant, and she's also the award-winning author of 2 books, Secrets of Aboriginal Healing and Aboriginal's Secrets of Awakening. And you have been telling us about following the ancient Aboriginal principles, and you actually healed yourself of hepatitis C and fibromyalgia. You were talking about your husband, who's a physicist, Dr. Gary Holtz, and he was a quadriplegic and went into the outback and was able to use these secrets to regain feelings of movement throughout his paralyzed body. And you offer one-on-one sessions. You have an online healing course that looks fantastic, and you also have speaking services, and your website is holtzwellness.com. That's HOLZWELLNESS.com. And I just want to touch base. Do you have any events coming up or anything you want to direct our listeners to?
No, I think we've covered it. I'm kind of spending a lot of time on consultations with people. I just need 1 hour with them, just 1 hour, and working on a 3rd book. People don't recognize how to get tremendous help from the other side of the veil, from their guardian angels, and so it became clear that information needs to get out. So that's what I'm working on now, is that 3rd book.
Oh, that's great. Accessing unseen help is what I would call it. Well,
Definitely.
Thank you so much for being with us today. You really enhanced the morphic field of our show, and I'm so glad to have talked with you.
Thanks, Joan and Janet. It's been really fun.
It's been a delight. Thank you. This is enriching on so many levels, and everyone be sure and check in and see what she's got cooking, because she's got it.
Really quick, I want to let people know how to get in touch with us beyond the show. You can go deeper with us by going to our website, consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com. You can listen to our past podcasts. You can also read our blogs, the Words of Wisdom that Janet puts out on Mondays, and I put mine out on Fridays. We have meetups around the Puget Sound, actually around the Northwest, because Janet has hers in Portland. I have mine in Seattle, Bellevue, Tacoma, University Place, and other places. You can find us on Facebook, and you can also find us on Twitter. On Facebook, it's Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet, or Janet Barrett, or Joan Marjorie Newcomb. You can find us on Twitter. At Joan and Janet is the show on Twitter, and at Joan M. Newcomb is me. And you can also find out about the show on YouTube. You can find us on YouTube, and you can also find me on YouTube. And those are all posted on the website as well. We have a conscious conference call coming up. Do you want to tell them about that, Janet?
Sure. Everyone, tomorrow, Thursday, December 15th, 7 p.m. Pacific. We hope you'll join us for an hour of lively conversation and absolute quiet. Where we go in deep, we look at just what we've been doing here, accessing heart-centered awareness, and what comes out of that place within each of us. And it's a smaller, intimate group, and we can all chat there, and it's absolutely remarkable at times. It's always remarkable, and I think everyone enjoys who participates. So please consider joining us. You can contact us at consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com and get all the information.
Yes, and it's a page on our website, too, on consciousconversationswithjoanandjanet.com. I have a meetup coming up on Sunday. It's a special meetup. I'm doing a talk specifically on rediscovering your purpose and regaining your passion for life. I'm going to be at the meeting room in Uptown Espresso in South Lake Union. That's this Sunday, December 18th from 2 to 4 p.m. And you can also see me in the University Place, which is south of Tacoma here. I'm doing a meetup next Wednesday, the solstice, Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. In the library right next to Whole Foods. So that has been a really fantastic show. I'm really excited to see what unfolds in people's lives after this information going out.
We want to thank Robbie, everyone, for adding the wonderful dynamics and the awareness, the tiny awareness that we can get in the amount of time that we have of a culture that's 60,000 years old in the wisdom and how they are in time and space and what benefit it is to you and I. So that's now part of the show's reference. So like we have the blue whale with the heart the size of a Volkswagen, we now have the wonderful grace that that the Aborigine culture adds to being in the world. So whatever we think is challenging us, just go inward. That's all you can do, and then fold. Okay.
And you've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. I'm your host, Joan Newcomb.
And I'm Janet Barrett. And thank you so very much. We've so enjoyed ourselves.
Tune in next week, same time, same channels.
You've been listening to Conscious Conversations with Joan and Janet. And thanks so much for helping to co-create the show, no matter if you're listening live or on demand. You energetically contribute to our collective experience. Joan and Janet love to hear from you and invite you to email your comments and ideas for them to explore each week. Contact them at consciouswithjoanandjanet@gmail.com. Tune in next week for another great show, and until then, keep enjoying this wonderful adventure we call life.